Greetings, fellow humans. I'm MartianBuu, and today we got some really exciting news for Wild. Hearthstone announced a balance change coming on Thursday, which includes 3 Wild-focused changes, which is pretty exciting. We don't know specifically what's going to happen to the cards, but we know what the cards are. So there are 2 standard focus changes. The Death Knight location is going to get changed. We don't know what that change is going to be. I imagine we're going to lose a durability. If it goes up a mana, it'd be pretty exciting because we get that in even Death Knight and Wild. But I would imagine, based off of what they've done with the other locations, that they'll go after a durability. Goldshire Knoll is going to get changed. So what was happening with that is they don't have Snow Flurry Giant like we have in Wild. So when you go to evolve Goldshire Knoll, it goes from a 10 cost to another 10 cost because it doesn't have an 11 cost to go to. So it was really easy for them to cheat out Thaddeus. It was bugged to get an Epsilon for a while. I imagine the change that's going to happen with that is Goldshire Knoll to 11. That way, if you try to evolve a Goldshire Knoll, it's going to evolve into a Goldshire Knoll. If you're sad about that, for even luck, don't despair. Rotation is just around the corner. Goldshire Knoll is used pretty fairly in Wild, so I'm almost certain that it'll get reverted once it rotates. That's like a month or 2 away from now. So yeah, Knoll will be back almost assuredly. As for the Wild changes, we have Cataclysm for Discard Warlock, so the Tome Tampering ban was not enough. It was still doing obnoxious offboard damage. The nice thing about hitting Cataclysm is it's kind of future-proofing. So the hand-wide discards have shown to be a problem with them printing more discard synergies. So certainly hitting the thing you need, clearing the board while you draw a bunch of cards even and get a bunch of tempo, enough more of that, and Cataclysm is its own problem again. I think that hitting the hand-wide discards is good over banning Soul Barrage, given that they are likely to print more discard support over time, and because I think that nerfing a card in Wild is better than banning a card if it can be done. I'd prefer that this go to 6 to make sure that it doesn't work anymore, because the synergy is with Expired Merchant. Cataclysm being at 4 means that Expired Merchant always hits Soul Barrage over the Cataclysm. If you change it to 6, you can never hit Soul Barrage over the Cataclysm. If it goes to 5, it's a coin toss, and I think that would probably be enough to undermine the viability of Discard Warlock. But I'd rather be safe than sorry. And so you might be mourning Mecha'thun Warlock, but given the Tome Tampering ban, you had to go back to the Rod version anyway. And a Rod discount on either Vol'jin or on Cataclysm makes the combo still work. So it's not like you can't play Mecha'thun. It's also not like Mecha'thun was a big player in the Wild format anyway. So if you were playing Mecha'thun already before, it wasn't very good, and it is still very possible even if Cataclysm goes up by 2. Then we have Pillager Rogue. So Pillager is a high legend frustration, but it is becoming more and more popular all the time. And despite the narrative that you can rat any piece and then the deck doesn't work anymore, that is very much not true. Someone who has put a decent amount of games will definitely be able to kill you losing half its pieces. So the more time you give the Pillager, the higher their damage output and the less pieces they need to actually finish you off. So even despite early rats and stuff like that, Pillager is still killing from hand between turn 4 and 6 if the player is experienced. And it's just really obnoxious when you're trying to like enjoy a game of Hearthstone and it comes down to they skip the first 3 turns and they just kill you on 4. It would be really nice to not have that happening anymore. I would expect this to go up to 7 mana because right now at 6, it costs nothing when you Shark Scabs. And if it goes to 7 mana, it starts costing any amount of mana from nothing, which is an enormous change. Slows the combo down by a couple turns at least. You could even go the extra mile to make sure that it's gone with 2 mana. I'm not sure how necessary that is. I feel like that's too much ground to lose even at 1 mana, but either way, really happy that they're making a change to Pillager Rogue. Then finally, we have Grey Sage Parrot. This is the one I'm least sure about. I would be confident that it's a ban now and a Wild change when it rotates if we were a little farther away from rotation. But changing the text of Parrot to 6 or more doesn't actually affect the current meta lists of Big Spell Mage. The intended synergy is that this be played with the 5-cost spell that came out in the same mini set, but people aren't actually playing with it that way, at least in Legend. So given that we are right at rotation, I could see them being like, this doesn't actually affect the meta that much. Why don't we bother skipping the ban phase and go straight to changing the card? Just for precedent, I'd prefer them not do that. That way that like we don't have to explain why every time somebody suggests a Wild change to a standard card, you know? But either way, I'll take it. My expectation is ban now. When it rotates, change the text to 6 or higher. That way it can never recast Time Warp. But we could see ban now and then just have them revert the buff to it, so it goes back to 8 mana. That probably stops it from being a meta deck, but I think I'd rather, just like Cataclysm, I'd rather them just, make sure that it can't happen given how infrequently we get wild changes. So yeah, would prefer a text change, buff revert. I'd still be happy to see that. And I expect them to ban it first and then revert on rotation. But given rotation is so close and it doesn't really affect standard to make that change, I could see them just skipping that step in this case. So it does feel like a bit of a miss to see Big Priest not on here. For me personally, these changes are much more important than the Big Priest change. I know that a lot of people don't feel that way. If you're in Diamond, for example, you see a lot more Big Priest than you see some of these. So especially if this is just them making high confidence changes that will be followed up with further changes down the line. We haven't actually heard the results from the Wild Summit yet. We don't know if their philosophy for Wild has changed, and we're going to see balance changes more often. So if you don't see the change that you wanted to see on this list, don't despair. All 3 of these are pretty unprecedented changes given that each one of these decks doesn't really meet the high bar that we've seen in the past for getting a wild change. There is definitely hope that whatever is bothering you might be changed in a subsequent patch. So even if this isn't what you want, I recommend you take this as being hopeful that you'll start seeing the type of changes that would make your wild experience better moving forward. So yeah, that's about it. These changes are coming on Thursday. We'll know more about why and what they are, I assume, either that day or the day before. I hope you're as excited as I am to hit a wild without these decks. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment to support the channel. Let me know what else you would have liked to see, what you think these changes are going to be, whether or not you like that these cards are going to be changed. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you so much for watching.